Hey guys, this is Allie Caldwell, and you know I got soul.
All right, I got so very excited to be here with Allie Caldwell. Most people know her obviously from The Voice, The Final Four, but there's so much more to her. Obviously, Allie, right now you're on tour with Usher, doing background.
I am.
Just talk about the experience right now, being on the road. You guys have been on the road for a couple of months now, doing this world tour, back-to-back dates on many cities, or even back-to-back-to-back. So just talk about this whole experience right now.
Wow. That's a big question. So, I mean, just like you said, like I was telling you earlier, we've been going at it in rehearsal since, I want to say, August. So everything has been, actually, before August. Let me correct that. I think everything kind of started in like April with rehearsals, and the tour actually started in August. So we kind of been like on a nonstop, just going, and be very, very lucky to get some time to get home. And, well, if we have some time to get home and visit our family, it'll be like a day or two, and then we have to jump back and get back into things. But the opportunity itself and the moment, doing this whole tour with Usher is kind of like, every day I'm just like pinching myself. Like every time I like look at the stage, I'm just like, is this my life?
Right.
So it's really cool. I can't lie. Like I'm very excited, very blessed, very lucky, very very happy, to be in the room. It's almost like, I'm seeing all of the hard work pay off type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what's also super cool, like we've seen it on Instagram, is all these special guests that have been appearing at each city.
Yeah.
So you've been, very close to, like, Ron Isley was on stage recently.
Yeah.
RL from Next. Like, just talk about that as not only a performer, but as an R&B fan, just to see all these legends come on stage and you're right beside them and you're just soaking it all in.
The special guest is pretty unpredictable, which is, I think, one of my favorite parts, because we never know, like, who the special guest is going to be. And especially the band, like, we got to come in, we got to do our sound check, and then I feel like sometimes we don't find out until the day of the show. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't know until we get there and we start the sound check, and they're like, oh, by the way, so you guys have to sing backgrounds for such and such, or you have to learn this song. So last minute. Sometimes we'll get it the night before, and it's like, oh, hey, learn these songs. And then we see the song, and then we're like, does that say Isley Brothers? Does that say Ronald Isley? So, okay, we're about to sing backgrounds for RL and Next, and all of these different people, and it's like, that's the fun part about it to me, because it's so unpredictable, and it's very much a surprise for us too, just like it's a surprise for the people in the audience. So it's super cool. Like, I that's the only way I can explain it, because we're blown away too as fans, like we're singers ourselves. So to see who it is, like who the special guest is, we're all three of us, we're like, okay, oh shit, here we go. Sorry.
No, I got to ask you though, because obviously people know you from The Voice, know you from The Final Four.
Yeah.
And on those shows you were center of attention, you were on stage, you were singing. Singing background is a different beast, right? It's a different task. Like, was that a hard adjustment for you?
And that's a great question, because out of the three of us on singing background with Usher right now, I'm the least experienced when it comes to background singing, because I have been, just doing the solo artist thing for years, and after the TV shows, I was going on tour with my own band overseas, and that's all I really knew. So I was like locked into that. So when I first got my first BGV opportunity was with Christina Aguilera. And, like I said, the BGV world, the circle is so small, and everybody's friends. Like my mutual friends, it's like they're, somebody else's mutual friends. So when they were looking for somebody to get the job done, that's when I got the call. So I get the call from somebody who's, connected in many ways, and also my friends. So that's kind of like how I got into the BGV world, by, one of my friends reaching out to me, and they're like, hey, do you want to sing background for Christina Aguilera? And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, what?
Right.
So that's how that happened for me. And, after that, I was just like, if I'm going to do like the whole background singing thing, I was like, I only want to do it for like legends. Like, I only want to do it for like people who are like the greatest of all times, like who we call the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like people who I'm like in awe of till this day. You know what I mean? Or that I can learn from. So basically, for me, with the whole Christina Aguilera and the Usher thing, like I feel like I get a free masterclass like every single day. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a win-win situation. So
no, for sure. Now, I spoke to, I'm not sure if you know her, Ravon. She's currently touring with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
She's a solo artist as well. And I think one of the things that she mentioned to me was just there's kind of always an internal conflict when you're a solo artist and you're going into the backgrounds.
Yeah.
You know, there's some fear about what people might think of that.
Yeah.
People might think, okay, is she still a solo artist? Like, how did you kind of overcome that, or did you have to overcome that?
For me, I don't think it's anything that I had to overcome. I just think you have to find that balance. You know what I mean? And I feel like you just have to be a bully about, you know what I mean? Like finding time for yourself and those in-between moments where you're like, oh, say if I have like, for instance, we're here in Canada right now on an Usher tour, and we have 3 off days. So for those 3 off days, you can be very productive for yourself. You can do some things for yourself as, because you're a solo artist. And, that's your free time to, do what you need to do. So that's the balance, that you have to find, where it's like that in-between time to just kind of like make it make sense and also not forget about yourself and, who you are. So, yeah. No,
that's a great point. And plus, I think the other thing that people might not understand is, as an independent artist such as yourself, like you got to pay the bills too at some point. It's not easy being an indie artist. But I do want to ask you, like, you had such major platforms with The Voice and with Final Four, and I think you gained a lot of fans from that. After those shows end and you're putting out your own music, has it been tough to kind of capture those fans and say, hey, I've got music out, check this out as well? Because you essentially go from them following you weekly on TV to having to start new. They might love your voice, but it's how do I capture them and make them understand me as an artist? Like, just talk about the challenges with that.
After coming off of the TV shows, it's been kind of rough with my, original music. And I'd say that only because you have to think about the songs that, that I was doing on the show. Right. And sometimes, like, I'm going to use The Voice as, for an example. The Voice is a very, broad, it's very, like, wide, and everybody's, like, really big fans of country music and pop music, so technically the songs that I was, assigned on that show wasn't really in alignment with, like, who I am as an R&B artist. Yeah. So most of the work had to be done a lot when I got off of The Voice, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, she can sing these big, big power ballads and got this really big, big voice. And I think that's what people expected from me when I got off of the show. Like, they wanted me to do, like, big Mariah cuts and big Whitney cuts and big, like, they're like, the songs need to match the power that's within your voice. You know what I mean? But here I am, an R&B singer, and I just want to, I want to chill. I want to, give feeling, but also give a vocal. So it was hard to kind of, like, balance being what the people fell in love with, like giving them the sound that they fell in love with, while also still giving them who I was before I even got on the show, if that makes any sense. So, and then when I did The Four, I feel like it was so perfect because The Four was based around R&B, hip-hop. It was very R&B, hip-hop driven, and, it was perfect for me. I felt like it did exactly what it needed to do for me as an artist, and I felt like the time that I was on there, I did exactly what I needed to do, and I got so many followers and supporters from there who followed me with my original music and everything. So it was a great experience. It wasn't so hard after The Four because the crowd of people that I was looking for is exactly what I got from being on that show.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny to see people still now on YouTube talking about your performances on both shows, like the My All performance. People still talk about that. Like,
yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
That's super cool. Of course, you dropped your album '88 about 4 years ago. The song that stood out to me was "Why You Want to Stay."
Yeah. That's a good one.
Such a smooth record. Talk about that one.
Why You Want to Stay on the 88 album is definitely one of my favorite records. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite records. I guess with that album, I was just in a mindset of wanting to talk about like real life situations because, you know, I had a conversation with my friend and I'm like, I feel like people just write songs and put things together and not really having no connection to it. Maybe just writing a song and being like, oh, this sounds great, or this word sounds great with this word. And like for me in that album, I was like, I actually want to write something that's connected to me, where when I'm singing it, you know, you can feel like, oh, she's really been through this, you know. So Why You Want to Stay is it is what the lyrics is, you know. It's basically like if two people are, you know, basically being horrible to each other, like showing all of the signs that, you know, the love is not there anymore, the respect is not there anymore, but something still keeps them, you know, together. But that one person is asking, what is that something? Like, basically, why do you want to stay? Like, I want to know, like, what is it that's keeping you, or that's keeping us, you know, still together type of thing. And that's like I feel like it's very realistic in the world when it comes to couples and people who, you know, go through things, and, you know, it's common. So, yeah, it's one of my favorites. Yeah,
that's a great one. And then the other one that stood out to me was In My Head. I know a lot of people love that one. I know one of the BTS members danced to that record.
Crazy?
Like,
yeah,
just talk about that.
Crazy. Yeah, a lot of my friends had sent me that clip on Twitter that, you know, one of the guys from BTS had posted, and I was like, I think it was like at his album release.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he was like dancing to it and everything, and I'm like, oh my God, that's my song.
Right.
But yeah, just to see that, like, it makes me very happy, and it's kind of like this, you know, people are feeling it. So, like In My Head is basically anybody that overthinks. You know, if you're an overthinker, In My Head is definitely a song that you can connect to. So, yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that you mentioned earlier. Like, when I listened to your album, I went in thinking it would be a bunch of big ballads, but it's not that, right? Like, In My Head has the hip-hop drums to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just a lot of different elements to it.
Yeah.
What's next for you when it comes to music? That was 4 years ago. I know you're on the road with Usher right now, but like you said, you're constantly trying to get inspired, trying to write music. Like, what's coming up?
I've been very, very inspired lately.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look who I'm touring with. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a free masterclass. Like, we get to literally watch the greatest of all time.
Right.
Like, literally every single night. So, it's, I'm so inspired. I don't even know what my sound is going to be next after this tour. Like, I wouldn't even be able to describe it, or even what direction I will be going in as far as music, and what type of music. You know, that's how inspired I am, because my wheels are just like, they're just going. So, and then I feel like after this tour, I can really do anything that I want. You know, like, it's basically just a blank slate, a blank, you know, page that I can just kind of like do whatever I want, you know. Yeah. Also, I'm engaged, so thank you. So after this tour, I'm definitely, you know, excited about getting married, and, you know, just kind of like getting my personal life, putting more time into my personal life, because for years and years and years, I've just been, you know, music, and moving around and touring, and, you know, my career has just always been front and center. And, you know, so after this tour, I'm definitely going to, you know, be happy to put some time into me and my personal life.
Amazing.
And then, you know, think about where I'm going to go as far as my music. Yeah.
That's amazing. And then lastly, Ali, I got to ask this, because I'm sure you have a lot of people that come up to you that will mention that they've seen you on The Voice, that, you know, they love what you did on there. And I think it's no secret that you sing a lot better than a lot of people. And I'll be honest, but it's humbly speaking, like, how do you keep yourself grounded, and along with that is, how do you continue to remain patient as you're pushing through as an independent artist? Because it can get frustrating knowing that, hey, I can sing better than most of these people, but I'm not where they are. Like, just talk about that mentality.
Yeah, it can. Well, first of all, thank you.
For sure.
It can get very frustrating, but as an independent artist, like I understand that my workload and what I have to do to get to where those A-list legendary, artists are is a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a heavy load because when you're an independent artist, you're basically doing everything on your own, and you and your little team that you have, and basically everything is just you, all of you guys. You know what I mean? So. It's a little bit harder, but I've never been the type of person to, let that consume me or let it, discourage me and to stop me because, I really believe that the gift that God has given me is supposed to be used and, spread around the world. And, if I was to quit just because things got a little hard, it just wouldn't be me and my character. Right. So, yeah, it's to answer the question. It's definitely frustrating, but I feel like, the pressure of it and the fire that it puts under our asses is like what points out the people who are really made to do this. You know what I mean? So it shows that okay, like she's really about her, her thing. She's really about it. She's very passionate about it. Or he's very passionate about it. So it just really highlights that, and I think that's what makes it, better at the end of the day for me. It's not so frustrating.
Right. Amazing.
The ending result.
And then lastly, Allie, I read that early on, before your solo career, you were part of a group, and because we don't hear these stories anymore of having to find your way, getting signed to a label, trying to get discovered. Like, just take me through your journey. Like, what was that like for you? I'm sure you were shopping demos, performing at different labels. Like, what was that all like for you?
That was crazy, and I was so young. I was, in my first girl group when I was in my junior year of high school.
Wow.
So the first girl group that I was in, it kind of like popped off when I was in my senior year of high school, and that was when we got the opportunity to open up for Boys to Men, which was like a full circle moment for me because Wanye came out on the Usher tour, and it was so many years ago, and I was young, and I knew that it wasn't a situation where he would remember because I was very, very young, black hair. Here I am with this big red hair as a grown woman years later. So, but it was just like for me as a personal thing to know that things came full circle. Back to what I was saying before, like it just shows like the ending result of your hard work is paying off. Like all of that hard work that you're doing, it's like don't stop because those people that you seen years ago, you're gonna run back into them and they're gonna be like, oh hey, I remember you, or you're gonna be like, wow, like I did, you know what I mean? So yeah, we opened up for Boys to Men. We did a tribute to Patti LaBelle. And it was just like they shopped us from label to label. It was very successful for teenage girls. It was a nice run, but unfortunately, it didn't last long. But it was a great lesson for me. It taught me a lot, and it definitely put the fire in me to keep going as a solo artist. Like immediately after, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to continue going because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
I want to bring that up just because of how music has evolved over the years, the industry as well, from having to get signed to a label to having those TV platforms like you were part of, and now with social media, anything is possible. So I think it's just really cool to just see that you've experienced all three of that in your career.
Yeah, it's crazy how the times change because, back in the day, with my whole girl group days, there was no social media. So everything was just like, oh, label, you're trying to get a deal. Yeah. And now, as a grown woman and as an independent artist, it's like the chase is different. It has a bigger meaning to it now for me, especially as an independent artist. You know what I mean? And knowing that for all of these years, like everything that has happened within my career has been me and my little team that I have. So. And nothing against, major labels, but as independent artists, just to give the encouragement to the independent artists out there, you can do it. Like, you can definitely do it with you and your little team that you put together. Everybody just has to be passionate about the same thing, So if that happens, then there's no stopping you from then. That's when the opportunities and the doors are just, like, knocking down and opening for you, because you're very consistent and you have a big a nice little size of people who actually are passionate about the same thing and want the same thing for you as well.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing. So, Allie, that's all that I've got for you. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you for having me. And Canada is beautiful. I'm so happy that we were able to do this. And yeah, I hope you guys come to the show. Come to the Usher Past, Present, Future show.